Empezamos con la...
Okay, so we start with the second part on the subject of cyber war. A myth or reality? In January 2010, South Korea stated that a cyber command had been created to face possible attacks from North Korea and China. The US published information also on the creation of a similar command in the US Armed Forces. So governments in different countries around the planet are quite aware of the potential threats. To give you an example, the Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron, has announced a budget of £640 million to fight against cybercrime. The European Union itself has developed a drill in order to test the strength of local networks. Stuxnet is probably the most significant example. This is a worm that was discovered last year and was initially designed to attack the control system of nuclear power plants. It has been made known, although not too much detailed information is available, has been made known that it has impacted a uranium enrichment plant and a nuclear power plant in Iran. Has also delayed the commissioning procedure for a nuclear power plant, scheduled for January 2011, by the way. Regarding statements made by some authorities, a former director of the NSA in the US said that the United States is facing a war against cybercrime and they are losing it. In the past 10 years, a cyber 9/11 has been happening. This has been happening very slowly, so we cannot see it clearly. On the opposite extreme, a recent report by OECD states that the potential threat of cyber war has been greatly overstated, whereas other significant authors like Bruce Schneier follow the same type of reasoning. He has said that we have to be ready to fight a cyber war, and in that sense, having a cyber command is as necessary as the strategic air command might be in the United States. But we are not fighting a cyber war as such now. The risks posed by cyber war are not greater than those from a land invasion, for example. Questions for the members of the panel, apart from all the comments you would like to raise. Is this true? Would you agree with these statements? Do you think this is an exaggeration? What is it? How could you define the concept of cyber war? Is this perception the reflection of a reality, or are there artificial interests being made up to justify fighting against such a thing? On the other hand, if it happens, what can we do to defend ourselves? So we will now start with Chema, again, 5 minutes. Enrique can start, just as before. So, you start. Okay. This is way away from my usual subjects. I don't feel as comfortable talking about this. I follow the reasoning. I follow Bruce Schneyer's. If you want peace, you have to be ready for war, basically. As I understand it, cyber war is related to attacking the most critical functions of any country, attacking security facilities or attacking any essential services for the running of the country, thereby leading to chaos. Those critical infrastructures under attack are safer than ever before, of course. This is not war games any longer, if you remember the film. But things haven't improved that much. I think weapons have improved on the one side, but defense mechanisms have also improved, but not that much. Obviously, investing in security, investing in security protocols in the mechanisms to defend ourselves is an essential part of our duty on a day-to-day basis. In case of war, obviously, this is something we would be needing security mechanisms in place. We need to do whatever is in our hand to prevent serious damage. As regards cyber war, my approach is rather skeptical. I do believe that it is happening, and it is much worse than people are used to thinking. When Bruce Schneier says that in the US this is being overstated, we're talking about the first country in the world in the expenditure in weapons. The amount of money spent in weapons in the United States is simply brutal. The investment is simply brutal. But no one would think about the exchange of spies between Russia and the US in Switzerland. A plane came by, released certain spies. Another plane came from the other country. One of those spies was a beta tester at Microsoft, by the way. But as regards the impact that cyber war may have, it is much easier for any government to try and attack other governments by using information technology systems or power plants with SCADA control systems or water treatment plants, electric plants, whatever. You can do a huge number of things without sending a commando or anything like that. I cannot think of Spain invading the United States using a land invasion procedure anywhere. But I do imagine three very wicked guys doing something very sinister, something very wicked, impacting the US. The Pentagon last year said that they got malware introduced through a pen drive, believe it or not. For about 6 months, they fought against the interference produced by that malware. Since then, they have introduced new biometric mechanisms in place. I always tell an anecdote. On DEFCON conferences, I've been lucky enough to attend 3 of those conferences, and it's quite striking to realize that technology has been set aside somehow. At the beginning, people started using computers, then we have DNS bugs, then we have build rate techniques with Trojan hackers, then there was the failure on SSL streams, no one updated anymore, and then last year when we had the proof of concept for GSM, there were 8,000 hackers with a notepad, taking notes by hand because no one would dare opening up their laptop. My camera has been blocked in my own laptop because you don't usually trust the software that you have in your own machine. I remember Charlie Miller speaking at that conference. Charlie Miller is probably one of the best exploiters in the world. He's found vulnerabilities in Mac computers all over the place. And with that investment mentioned by Bruce Schneier, Miller carried out a study assigned by the Department of National Security, the Department of Defense, sorry. The study carried out was about who is in charge of Korea? Kim Jong-il, the North Korean guy. What happened if he hired you to attack the United States or to invade the US electronically? His speech was incredibly funny. He depicted an outlay of the servers of the US government. And he believed that in one year would be enough to have Trojans penetrating every single server of the US government. In China itself, Google was infested with Trojans through the Aurora affair. So being infected with Trojans is not that unusual. Thank you, Chema. Ruben, your turn. On the questions you have posed and on the context of cyber war itself, I would like to clarify one thing. As we understand it, the cyber war today, the 4th generation cyber war, we will not be seeing battles like Braveheart or anything like that. The battles of today do not usually involve shootings or conventional weapons. We have ecological battles, psychological battles, we have intelligence-related battles, counterintelligence, we have terrorism, counter-terrorism. We have lots of different battles which are being fought and which are the different sides of that war. And one of the main features is cybernetics. The problem is when someone has the ability and someone has a motivation. Who can that be? Well, whoever has the resources and is at the same time willing to take on the consequences of that action. We're talking about governments, we're talking about states. We also have timing. It is not enough to say, we're going to declare war on this and that country. And from then on, we start thinking, oh, how can we do this? From the moment you declare war on some country, you have to be clear about one thing. You need to be in control of information about the facilities you want to attack, for example. So the cyber war, in 10 years from now, is being developed already. From my point of view, it is active. But because these are battles that it's not about attacking a dam or blowing up a nuclear power plant. That type of battle may indeed happen, but it will not be the majority. It will not be the most usual thing. We have conventional espionage, the gathering of information. For example, what China is doing all the time. Gathering information on infrastructures and all sorts of facilities. That has an impact on industry and on governments and states. So all those actions are part of cyber war as we know it. I think that is the important thing to find out whether we are in a cyber war or not. There are many different aspects, but we need to consider all of them.
Gracias, Rubén.
Thank you very much, Rubén.
So there are lots of different definitions of cyber war. It's sort of a loose term. I think of it as shutting down critical infrastructure, critical networks, power systems, maybe shutting down Wall Street. I don't think we've seen that yet, not the effects of a cyber war, although there's a continuing and maybe escalating undercurrent of the offline activities, but online. Lots of intelligence gathering. Cyber war is often confused with espionage and cybercrime. They're different things, although, you know, like Ruben was saying, you know, Chinese government and US government does it too, tries to gather intelligence, which can be considered a part of a, you know, aggressive or some kind of act against another country or nation state. But in the US, I think that the cyber war is a term that's used too much, and it's sensationalized. It'll grab headlines, and it will get funding for the military and different agencies that want to promote their agenda. So I think it's very politically charged and definitely hyped and overused, although it is going on. It's been going on for a while. We've been hearing about, you know, the digital Pearl Harbor for a couple decades now, and you know, there have been predictions that it's going to be happening. It's right around the corner. It has not happened yet. That doesn't mean that it won't. Pieces of evidence of cyber terrorism, cyber war, that a nation state or some parties with a lot of programming and sophisticated, you know, knowledge of critical infrastructure systems and Siemens systems, specific software, and specifically Iranian plants developing something. So that is something that worries me. But again, you know, I do think that the use of the term cyber war is overhyped. Thank you.